Today I want to take way too long to describe what I think might be an original and cool idea for wargaming. Hit that intro, baby! Welcome to Corner Case. You're in the hobby corner. I'm your favorite time traveler, your host, your best friend, Deck. Today I have an idea. Stay with me. I think this is a cool idea for wargames. The concept for this new type of wargame is time. Let me start to explain too much. I'm an industrial designer and my parents are architects, so this is just the language I speak. Charles and Ray Eames, famous architects that designed, most popular for designing a bunch of chairs and a couple buildings. If you don't know them, you do know them. If you've seen their stuff, you've probably seen their stuff. While many designs have achieved greatness by breaking the format, challenging the format, just as many designs have been great because they took advantage of the media or the format that they were in. So Charles and Ray Eames, popular for designing a bunch of chairs, one of which would be like this potato chip chair or this Eames lounge chair. When you think about it, why they're great is because they took advantage of the media that they were working with. In this particular case, bent wood. So they were popular for experimenting with that media, and the designs that they produced using that construction method are iconic to this day, the mid-century modern style. And you think about why. What makes bent wood special? What is beautiful about wood? It's the color, the grain, the hand feel. And so they created these designs that are very big, broad surfaces that allow you to enjoy that warmth, that texture, that hand feel, that wood grain. And they also had the constraint of when you're bending wood, you can only bend it on really one axis at a time. And so they're doing their best to, with very limited ability to form the shape, they have to use these kind of simplistic forms, make something really iconic. So they took the unique constraints and opportunities of the media that they worked with to produce a very interesting and iconic design. Now, this is where I'm going in terms of game design. That is a real bookshelf, and let me get something from it. I spoke in a previous video about what I think a good tabletop game design is for the modern age. This game right here, Dialect, is a tabletop RPG that I think is absolutely the best example that I think I have right now of what I think is a great tabletop game design for the modern human. What it is, well, the packaging says it all. Build a language, build a world. A game about language and how it dies. This game is structured over the course of 3 turns. The people playing take turns building words, and those 3 turns span over a large distance of time. So they provide several what they call backdrops within the core book. I think the main one that people play or that I've seen played is the Mars one. The general concept is that this group of people lands on Mars, they become isolated, and they form an isolated community that's the seed for which their language is born. And then they live in that community over some large period of time. Each turn in people-wise is going around the table, but each turn in the game is like 20 to 50 years or something like crazy. And that kind of allows you to see that transition of words over a long period of time. So by the end of the game, you've traveled maybe 50 to 100 years out from the beginning of that community. And I think that right there is a really great big idea I haven't really seen explored in contemporary war games right now. So think about it. Like, look, all right, I'm gonna say the W word. Okay, so Warhammer 40K, okay, the F word, the 40K. How many wars or battles within wars do you know that really take place and die in the Alpha Strike? Sure, maybe a lot of battles in a war can be won in an Alpha Strike, but there are also many battles where 2 sides are contesting a front for years. At least in the battles that they talk about in World War II, and especially in World War I, you know, the trench warfare, sometimes 2 sides were contesting for years. And especially in Warhammer 40K, sometimes you'll be reading the book and they'll be like, yeah, so we're trying to take this planet back, and then boom, all of a sudden, like the next page, it's been a month and they're still on the same planet, like fighting the same battle. That isn't really represented in 40K right now, or any other big war game that I've seen. So Star Wars Legion is a similar scale, and they kind of have the same compression of time. And I think that compression of time comes from Dungeons and Dragons and a traditional RPG game, kind of doing that slow motion combat. But I think the weird abstraction that happened is that they took that format, they plugged it into wargaming, or who knows, maybe wargaming already had this type of format, but the fact of the matter is that nowadays the games are balanced around, you know, winning that conflict within the length of the game. And you know, when you do play 40K, like pretty often, or even Legion, I'll say Legion more often. I'll do that. Within Legion, the game will end with one side having very few models. So my idea is, what if, you know, you had a war-sized game like Star Wars Legion that over the course of, you know, usually they're capped at 4 to 5 turns. What if every turn was actually supposed to represent a snippet or a slice of a large period of time. Maybe in between turns, a year or 2 years happens, you know, and then there would be some way of randomizing what type of thing happens within that period of time. You know, maybe within that period of time, you can spend in between turns 1 and 2, you can call for reinforcements, you know, and you may or may not get them, or maybe between turns 2 and 3, there's a chance that your supply lines are cut off, and then now your force can't receive reinforcements, or worse, your tanks or your infantry are now shooting at some type of penalty because they don't have ammo. This would like super juice up any morale type of mechanic, because a squad might not flee in like the course of a slow motion 2 hours, but a squad might flee if they have to sit in the trenches for like 2 years. When it comes to skirmish games, I can feasibly believe that a skirmish game, that kind of works the same way like D&D traditional TTRPG combat goes. It's this compressed time. It can be like as quick as a moment to as slow as like maybe an hour or something, like in real time narratively. But when it comes to a war game, there's so much opportunity to play with the duration of time that this battle is fought and lost and won. And I think that's kind of the idea that I'm getting from this game, Dialect. And I've seen other games like it. Most recently, I saw this other game that was an altogether different river. Again, tabletop RPG game, similar to Dialect, but instead of building a language, you're actually building like a small town or a location and simulating how that location evolves over time and how it affects the people that are there. So that's really interesting. And I think that really takes advantage of the unique opportunities and constraints of these types of games. I think it's time for us to open our minds a little bit about what wargaming can be. And instead of discussing the minutia of, oh, these points aren't balanced, or why are these models taking so long to come out, or stratagems are stupid, there's this whole bigger discussion about the structure of the game, the system architecture design of the game that affects way more. We don't have to think about games as being won or lost at the list level. And the types of simulation that we can do inside wargames can be much bigger than just simulating the small moment of shooting a gun and the gun hitting its target. It can be way bigger than that. And so, you know, I don't know if this was a good idea, but I'm like pretty interested in exploring this type of thing. I'm sure that this concept isn't the first of its kind. I think I've seen this type of thing in board games before. And if you guys have other ideas too, like leave them in the comments. This is the type of thing I want to have discussions about. And I think the type of thing that's really going to boost the creativity in the hobby. Anyway, that's what I got for today. I hope you had fun. You know, play Dialect. If you play TTRPGs, you haven't played this game, you gotta play this game. It's freaking awesome. And if you happen to be spicing it up, homebrew 40K or homebrew Star Wars Legion, maybe give it a try, you know? What happens if you imagine this battlefront lasts for like 30 years or something, you know? Could be really cool. And with that, thanks for hanging out with us. As always, thanks for swinging by. Please like and subscribe. We're always desperate. And we'll see you next time.
Venerate the Emperor by subscribing now. Only in death does subscribing end.